Hi, everyone, and welcome to a slightly different version of, I guess, what you could call a kitchen table conversation. It is our hope that we bring this back to your kitchen tables, but this is a little bit more targeted for people who either have or love and care for somebody who has a complicated and beautiful brain. So we're going to jump right into this kind of summary or explainer because we're exploring something truly fascinating, and that is how to navigate life with a creative, busy, sometimes puzzling, and just beautifully complicated mind. If you've ever felt like your brain is, operating on a completely different frequency than the people around you, or maybe you're supporting someone who feels that way, you are in the right place right now. We're going to unpack how to stop fighting your natural wiring and start living an empowered, really meaningful life. So, okay, let's just kick things off with a comparison that I absolutely appreciate. Picture this. You just bought a manual transition car, a stick shift. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but the dealer accidentally hands you the instruction manual for an automatic. So you'd be stalling out at every intersection, grinding the gears, and probably blaming yourself for being a terrible driver, and even wondering if driving is for you. Or think about trying to run a Mac software on a PC. It's just going to crash. It's not a broken computer. It's literally just the wrong operating system, right? Similarly, a neurodivergent brain simply needs a different set of instructions sometimes to avoid stalling out. So you aren't broken. Your brain just requires a unique manual. The compassionate, super practical tools we're unpacking today came straight from the book that I've written recently called Not Your Typical Growing Up and Adulting Guide, and its workbook companion. Thinking about the calming lotus flower on the cover, it's just kind of a perfect symbol, in my opinion, for the whole journey. The lotus grows at its own pace, often through muddy waters, before it finally blooms. The lotus flower, or the water lily, has always brought peace to me, and it's my hope that it shares that with you as well, or it spreads that around with you as well. So this summary, or this explainer, is really all about giving yourself that exact same grace and understanding to grow into your best self. So let's move into section 1, inside your beautiful brain. This is where we look at what's actually happening behind the scenes, because, when you have a complicated and beautiful brain, a lot of your absolute hardest work is completely invisible to the outside world. You might experience working memory glitches where you genuinely just forget an important rule in the heat of a moment. Or you might have a slower processing speed, like a computer that just needs an extra minute or two to load a very complex page. You might face rapid emotional shifts, sensory overload from loud noises or bright lights, and even social vulnerability because your big heart trusts maybe too quickly. It is absolutely crucial to recognize that these hidden challenges are matters of neurology. They're not character flaws. They're not laziness. It's literally just how your nervous system is built. So now here's a real game changer for lots of folks. This concept of dysmaturity. Dysmaturity is a brain-based reality, meaning that you aren't immature. You just process things on a different timeline. Because of uneven neurological development, you might be, say, 20 years old physically, but under stress, your emotional age might react more like that of a 12-year-old. And honestly, that's okay. I mean, it's difficult and it's puzzling, but it just means that you need tools and support systems that match your internal brain and your internal age rather than arbitrary expectations based strictly on the year that you were born. Which brings us to section 2, the wisdom of acceptance. Imagine that you're in a canoe on a fast-moving river. Trying to force your brain to act like a typical brain is exactly like paddling against the strong current. It's utterly exhausting. You barely move forward, and eventually you're going to burn out. But what happens if you turn the canoe around to paddle with the current? Suddenly the water supports you. Instead of fighting your wiring, we want to align with it. That's not lowering your standards. It's an incredibly smart strategy. The guide calls this turning of the canoe surrender. Now, I know the word surrender usually implies giving up or losing, but actually, let's just scratch that idea. In this context, It's exactly the opposite. Surrender is the profound wisdom of accepting your reality. So you can finally put down all that heavy, exhausting shame and pick up the right tools. It's like saying, hey, my memory works differently and my emotions rise quickly. So I'm going to set up my life to protect those vulnerabilities. Surrender is actually freedom, not giving up at all. Section 3 focuses more on rules as being protective guide rails. This completely flips how we usually think about things. We tend to view rules as, well, kind of like a punishment or a bit restrictive, and as someone trying to control or, make decisions for us. But for a complicated brain, written rules are protective guide rails. When your nervous system is totally overwhelmed by the busy store or the loud party or the massive rush of big emotions, your logical brain, like all of us, it just kind of shuts down. But it's a little bit more intrusive for people with complicated and beautiful brains. Rules step in and do the thinking for you. They are agreements made in calm moments to protect your dignity, maybe your wallet, and maybe your heart when things get a little chaotic or a little emotional. I really want the next sentence to sink in. Support without shame is best for my brain. Let me repeat that because it's important. Support without shame is best for my brain. This single phrase from the guide anchors everything we're talking about today. You are not supposed to navigate life entirely alone. Expecting yourself to handle every complex, fast-moving situation without a safety net is just setting yourself up for unnecessary pain. So let's talk about Section 4, your circle of support. This whole idea of total independence, that you are supposed to do everything completely by yourself, is a complete myth. Healthy interdependence is actually a more realistic and healthy goal. It's more achievable. None of us are meant to be living this life and doing everything by ourselves. So think of your helpers as your co-pilots. You might have emotional helpers who literally just sit with you and help you breathe when you're dysregulated. You may have thinking helpers for budgeting or safety helpers who go to parties with you. Using helpers to protect your heart, your body, and your future is absolutely not a sign of weakness. For sure, it is the ultimate act of maturity. One of the most important jobs your co-pilots have is helping you to navigate through relationships. Because a beautiful neurodivergent brain often trusts a little too quickly and love incredibly deeply, and your circle of support can be like a second set of eyes. They can help you to evaluate relational red flags, like someone rushing you or demanding secrecy. And they can look out for green flags, like patience and respected boundaries, way before your emotions take over and blind you to some of the risks. And finally, the last sections of the book focus on your culture, your identity, your purpose and meaning, and doing what you can to live your best life. The companion workbook uses this concept called kind of side-by-side reading. So you can literally sit down with your helper or partner and you can read through the prompts together. It's designed to help you and your helpers build a shared understanding of your plan and what's important to you without any judgment, and helping you to kind of formulate ways to stick to that plan. So you aren't trying to fix each other, right? You're just building a bridge of empathy. It's a safe space to clearly map out how your specific brain works when it's under stress. And inside that workbook, you'll find prompts that ask you to pause and investigate your emotional storms. For example, what is hiding underneath that anger? What's showing up for you? Because those are really important concepts to kind of tease out so that we can prevent those situations from escalating in the future. I feel, and most of us feel, that anger is just like the tip of the iceberg. That's what we see. But the workbook helps you to look beneath the surface reaction to identify maybe the fear or the feeling of rejection or the massive sensory overload that's actually driving the storm. Or maybe it's a trigger that has no more relevance anymore. But once you name it, you can kind of take away that power. And it asks the big, beautiful questions too. Questions like, what kind of person do you want to be? By working with your beautiful brain and instead of fighting against it, by using your guide rails and relying on your co-pilots, you really start to clear the way away from the chaos. And when the chaos clears, you can finally align your daily choices with your deepest values. You get to intentionally craft the life of the person that you truly want to be and who you really are underneath some of those symptoms that become problematic. I'm going to leave you with this incredible but powerful thought from the workbook's closing, courtesy of the great Maya Angelou. Do your best until you know better. Then when you know better, you can do better. Learning your personal instruction manual is a lifelong journey of growth. There is no shame, none at all, in the mistakes that you made when you were reading the wrong manual. But now you have the right one, or you could have the right one. So how will you use this new knowledge, and hopefully you're inspired to learn more, to better paddle with the current and to honor your beautifully complicated mind today? Think about that. Thanks so much for joining me in this revised version of Kitchen Table Conversations. And hopefully you'll join me for more chapter summaries in the very near future. With many thanks, Angela.